I'd never heard of the Ramones till maybe 75, maybe a little earlier, and reading about them in the Village Voice, which was the newspaper I read, and bought the album.
People said I had to own that album. I had no idea what it was, but I just looked at that album and I had to own it. I was trying to go, why? What was it?
I was reading Hit Parade magazine, I think. There was an advertisement for the Ramones album. It was just like a checkerboard, and every one was the opposite. Like the first one would say, "This is the worst band I've ever heard in my entire life," and then the next checker would say, "This is the greatest band I've ever heard in my entire life. They suck. They're great." And I thought, anything that's inspiring that amount of conflict, yeah, I want to hear that.
And when I first heard that Ramones, like, you could clear a room with the Ramones at one time. You walk into a party, put it on, people just run away. What the fuck is that?
I remember Linda Ronstadt running out of CBGBs like this when they started to play really like that. I mean, really publicly.
It's interesting, people who had that initial reaction sometimes turn out to be our biggest fans. And I understand that. In other words, something overwhelms them, and either it scares them or whatever, and then they go back home and they start thinking about it. And all of a sudden they go, wait, man, that was pretty interesting now that I think about it.
Having run 2 movie theaters up to that point, decided, then bringing in Amos Poe's Blank Generation, which intrigued me because it was about all these bands that were new and exciting. Sitting back there smoking a joint and watching this movie and thinking, gee, this is the New York, I should build a stage and bring in these bands.
I mean, when we did Blank Generation, we had no idea that it would, we had no idea if anybody would want to see it back then, let alone somebody want to see it now. I do remember Gary saying he wanted to show them there, and it was strange because both those films, the sound is not sync, so they're not really documentaries. They're kind of like, sort of almost like experimental films about music. A lot of people were expecting traditional documentaries. So very often we would book the film, and the cinema owners would call us, Monday after the screenings and say, 24 people showed up and 10 people wanted their money back. They hated the film.